The transport from the Accord orbital station to the Saurith Sovereignty's Grand Diplomatic Hall took 40 minutes. Ambassador Thale used 37 of them to deliver a briefing. Cashin Vel sat across from him in the forward-facing diplomatic configuration. It was the position used for serious discussion. Not travel. Not small talk. Work. There were 17 briefing points. 16 were normal. Seating order. Who to speak to. Who to avoid offending. Which discussions would quietly shape the future while pretending to be social. Cashin listened with full attention. He had trained for 6 years to do exactly this. Observe. Retain. Notice patterns. Especially the tone behind the words. The 17th point was different. Ambassador Thale's voice changed. It became heavier. Do not approach. Do not initiate eye contact. Do not begin conversation. And if conversation is directed at you, respond with the minimum required courtesy. Cashin did not interrupt. Princess Yora Saurith, Thale said. Cashin noticed something important. The instruction was specific. Not general caution. Specific. Like it had been said before. She attended the last 3 gatherings, Cashin said carefully. She was not the primary heir then, Thale replied. She is now. A pause. Her presence produces effects. What kind of effects? Cashin asked. The kind documented in Saurith court records, Thale said. Unpredictable. Disruptive. Another pause. The 17th point is the most important. Cashin filed that away. Not just the words. The weight behind them. The hall of quiet power. The Saurith diplomatic hall was vast and restrained. No bright colors. No loud design. Everything precise. Ancient. The walls shifted slightly in tone as light moved across them. Not dramatic. Just enough to feel alive. 11 civilizations were present. 240 individuals. Cashin moved through the room quietly, managing equipment for upcoming policy discussions. He preferred the margins. He worked best when people forgot he was there. He had accepted that. He was good at it. Then the air changed. Not loudly. Not visibly. But everyone felt it. Princess Yora entered. She was tall. Dark hair. Sharp Saurith features. Calm. But the air around her felt dense. Like gravity had increased by a small amount. Not threatening. Just undeniable. She did not scan the room randomly. She was searching. For something specific. Then she found it. Him. Cashin looked up from the 3rd table. She was looking directly at him. Not past him. Not through him. At him. She walked across the hall. 240 people went silent. She sat beside him. The most powerful royal figure in the room sat next to the man people usually forgot existed. And the hall froze. The incident. You were on Verith Station, she said quietly. 14 months ago. Cashin nodded. Section 7, she continued. Eastern Maintenance Corridor. Yes. 4 civilians trapped during the Harith incursion. Yes. Extraction capacity was 4. There were 5 of you. The hall was completely silent. Cashin kept his voice calm. I had the access code. You registered the 4 civilians manually, she said. Then removed yourself from the queue. Yes. You waited 40 minutes for the second extraction. Yes. She studied him. You gave up your place without hesitation. It was a capacity calculation, he replied. 4 seats. 5 people. I had the code. I could wait. You describe the most important moment of my life, she said softly, as a capacity calculation. He paused. At the time, it was. And after? He took a breath. After, it stayed with me. The silence deepened. Waiting in Section 7, he continued. 40 minutes. Structural damage. Uncertain outcome. But everything felt clear. She leaned closer. Yes. The parameters were defined. The actions were defined. The result would either happen or not. There was no confusion. She closed her eyes briefly. Yes. I've been in many crisis situations, he said. But that clarity was different. She looked at him with something intense and steady. The records call it the recognition. The hidden record. She spoke quietly, but the entire hall listened. For 9 generations, my family has documented the effects my presence has on others. Cashin stayed still. Most experience disruption. Emotional instability. Obsession. Loss of focus. He remembered the warning. Do not approach. Do not engage. But once, she continued, in the oldest surviving record, there is mention of something else. He waited. The recognition quality. She held his gaze. It happens when the air encounters the one who fits. He did not speak. It is mutual, she said. Mutual, he repeated. The clarity you felt, she said. I felt it too. His breath slowed. In 29 years, she continued, I have never felt that clarity in any formal setting. Only in Section 7. 240 people remained frozen. Cashin processed the information carefully. If the recognition exists, he said slowly, then your current court protocols are incomplete. She nodded. The protocols manage disruption, not recognition. Then the court needs the full record, he said. She studied him. You read governance documentation on the transport, didn't you? Yes. Of course you did, she said softly. He met her gaze calmly. The archival disclosure process requires a statement of relevance, he continued. This qualifies. She gave the smallest smile. Yes, it does. The decision. Coordinator Yeth approached carefully. Ambassador Thale followed. Everyone understood something historic was happening. Princess Yora stood. There is archival documentation relevant to current Soreth protocol, she said formally. I intend to present it to the Archive Council. Thale looked at Cashin. Cashin did not look away. I will coordinate the formal request, Cashin said. Princess Yora turned back to him. You will manage it thoroughly. Yes. I read everything available, he added. That is clear, she replied. She left the table. The room slowly resumed breathing. The message. Later that night, Cashin sent the formal coordination file. It included governance procedure citations, translation references for archaic Soreth language, timeline projections, protocol impact assessments, precise, clean, complete. 11 minutes later, a response arrived. The Archive Council session had been scheduled. The statement of relevance was attached. It was detailed, strong, clear. At the bottom, beneath formal language, was a single translated line from the ancient record. The one who fits remains. Cashin read it twice. Then again. He did not feel disruption. He felt clarity. He had stayed in Section 7. He had stayed at the third table under 240 watching eyes. He had stayed. That was what margin work was for. The shift. The next morning, something changed across the station. Sensors recorded it first. A measurable gravitational variance inside the Soreth sector. Small. But impossible. Princess Yora felt it immediately. So did Cashin. The clarity sharpened. Not emotional. Structural. Like two coordinates aligning. Deep in Soreth archives, ancient containment systems activated automatically for the first time in 4 generations. Something old had recognized something new. And it was responding. The real meaning. The recognition was not romance. It was not destiny. It was not myth. It was compatibility at a fundamental biological and energetic level. The Soreth heirs carried a unique gravitational field signature, a quantum-level influence over spatial stability. Most minds destabilized near it. One mind, in 9 generations, had stabilized it. Now there was another. Human. A junior cultural attaché. From a species the Soreth once considered physically fragile. The Archive Council session would begin in 12 hours. But something else had already begun. Across long-range sensors, beyond diplomatic space, Harith scout probes altered trajectory. Toward Sorath territory. Toward the anomaly. Toward the stabilization event. Princess Yora stood alone in her chamber. Kashin stood alone in the coordination office. Both felt it. The clarity expanding. Not chaos. Not fear. Alignment. For the first time in Sorath history, the air's field was not destabilizing. It was stabilizing. Strengthening. Becoming predictable. And that meant something terrifying to their enemies. Because if a Sorath air could stabilize, she could control. And if a human mind could withstand, humanity was no longer minor. Ending, the beginning of HFY. Kashin closed the Archive Council preparation file. He looked at the stars outside the viewport. He had read everything available. But this was not in the documentation. Princess Yora looked toward the horizon of her world. The oldest record had said, when the one who fits arrives, the air is no longer alone in gravity. The Harith ships were moving. The Archive Council was assembling. The protocols would change. The margin work had become the center. And in 12 hours, the galaxy would learn something new. Humanity was not powerful because of weapons. Not because of numbers. Not because of aggression. Humanity was powerful because, in the presence of something overwhelming, one human stayed. The Archive Council chamber was older than the diplomatic hall. Older than most living memory. The walls were carved from the original stone of the Sorath homeworld. Not shaped by machines, but by hand. Each mark carried history. Princess Yora stood at the center platform. Kashin stood 3 steps behind her, in the position assigned to foreign advisory personnel. He did not speak. He observed. 12 council members sat in a circular formation above them. Their robes were dark silver. Their expressions controlled. Coordinator Yeth stood at the right side of the chamber. Ambassador Thale stood at the left. The chamber doors sealed. The session began. Princess Yora Sorath, said High Archivist Turan, you have requested disclosure of restricted consolidation period records. State your relevance claim. Yora did not hesitate. The current court protocols are incomplete. A murmur moved through the chamber. The documentation on which they are based excludes recorded evidence of the recognition quality. Silence fell. High Archivist Turan's eyes narrowed. The recognition quality is an archaic reference. Unverified. It is verified, Yora said calmly. By lived event. Now the council looked at Kashin. He remained still. Turan spoke again. Explain. Yora inhaled slowly. 14 months ago, during the Harith incursion at Verith Station, I experienced the recognition quality in proximity to this human. Every eye locked onto him. He stabilized my field. The words dropped heavily. One council member stood abruptly. That is impossible. No external species has ever stabilized Sorath gravitational inheritance. Yora's voice remained steady. It has now. The evidence. Kashin stepped forward when signaled. He activated the data projection. Emergency logs from Verith Station filled the chamber. Time stamps. Extraction capacity records. Manual override entries. Biometric readings. Princess Yora's physiological data during the 40-minute waiting period. Council members leaned forward. Her stress indicators had dropped. Not increased. Dropped. Her neural field output had stabilized. Not fluctuated. Kashin spoke for the first time. I was unaware of her identity at the time. I made a capacity decision based on available extraction space. You removed yourself from evacuation, one counselor said. Yes. Why? 4 seats. 5 individuals. I could wait. That is illogical survival behavior. It was logical, Kashin replied calmly. 4 seats. The chamber fell quiet again. High Archivist Turan studied the data. Continue. Kashin switched to the archived ancient record. A translation appeared beside the original Sorath script. When the air encounters the one who fits, the field shall find symmetry. Turan looked sharply at Yora. You are claiming symmetry. Yes. You are aware what that implies. Yes. Symmetry meant control. Control meant power. Power meant change. The disturbance. Before the council could respond, alarms echoed through the chamber. Not loud. Low frequency. Ancient. High Archivist Turan froze. That alarm has not sounded in 4 generations. Coordinator Yeth activated a side display. Deep space sensors lit up. Harith fleet signatures. 37 warships. Entering Sorith outer territory. Gasps filled the chamber. They are moving toward the stabilization anomaly, Yeth said. The council turned to Yora. They have detected it, she said quietly. Kashin's mind worked quickly. They do not understand it, he added. Turan's voice hardened. The Harith do not approach without confidence. Kashin looked at the tactical projections. Their formation is probing, not assault. You can read Harith formation behavior, one counselor demanded. Yes. How? I read everything available. It was not arrogance. It was fact. The council hesitated. Yora stepped forward. They sense instability turning into strength. Turan's eyes darkened. If this recognition is real, then it has strategic implications beyond personal significance. Yes, Yora said. The chamber trembled lightly. Her field reacted to the incoming fleet. But this time, it did not spike wildly. It tightened. Focused. Stable. The council members felt it. For the first time in recorded history, the air's presence felt contained. Directed. Not overwhelming. Controlled. The realization. High Archivist Turan slowly stood. If this human stabilizes your field. Yes. Then the Harith may view him as a threat. Kashin answered calmly. Correct. And you remain? Yes. Why? He did not hesitate. The parameters are defined. The council stared at him. Harith advance. Sorith uncertainty. Recognition confirmed. Available actions limited. He looked at Yora. Outcome will either happen or not. Silence. The chamber understood something important. He was not brave in the emotional sense. He was precise. Steady. Unshaken. High Archivist Turan turned to the other council members. We are facing 2 simultaneous events. External aggression. Internal evolution. He looked at Yora. And both center on this human. The test. One council member, Elder Varen, spoke carefully. There is one way to confirm recognition beyond data logs. The chamber stiffened. The convergence chamber. Coordinator Yeth inhaled sharply. That chamber amplifies the air's field. Varen nodded. If stabilization is real, it will hold. If not. Ambassador Thale asked. Varen did not soften the truth. If not, the human mind will collapse. The words hung heavy. Kashin processed them. What is the amplification factor? He asked. 300%. Duration. Unknown. He nodded once. Acceptable. Ambassador Thale turned sharply. Kashin. It is the only way to remove uncertainty, Kashin said. Yora looked at him. Her expression changed. Not fear. Not doubt. Recognition. You understand the risk, she said quietly. Yes. And you remain. Yes. She turned to the council. Prepare the convergence chamber. The chamber. The convergence chamber lay deep beneath the council hall. It was circular. Walls covered in ancient gravitational focusing rings. This was where Sorith heirs trained to control their inheritance. No outsider had ever entered. Until now. Kashin stood at the center platform. Yora stood opposite him. Council members observed from behind protective barriers. Energy levels began rising. Low hum. Then higher. The air thickened. Gravity subtly shifted. Most species would panic. Kashin did not move. Yora's field expanded. Normally, it would destabilize those nearby, induce emotional overload, break focus. Instead, Cashin felt the same clarity as Section 7. Defined parameters. Defined actions. Outcome binary. Yora felt it too. Her field tightened around a central axis. Balanced. Symmetrical. Energy levels increased further. 200%. 250. 300. The chamber shook violently. Council members gripped their seats. If collapse occurred now, it would be catastrophic. But at the center, nothing collapsed. Yora's field did not spiral. It aligned. Like two gravitational signatures interlocking. Stable. Perfectly stable. Then something unexpected happened. The field did not merely stabilize. It synchronized. For the first time in Sorath history, the air's field extended outward in a controlled wave. Not chaotic. Precise. The wave traveled beyond the chamber. Beyond the council hall. Beyond the city. Into orbit. Into space. Harith fleet sensors flickered. Their ships wavered in formation. Navigation systems glitched. Weapon targeting arrays desynchronized. Because Sorath gravitational inheritance was no longer unstable. It was focused. Directed. A weapon. The Harith reaction. In deep space, Harith commanders analyzed the anomaly spike. What changed? Their leader demanded. Field coherence, their tactical unit replied. Sorath gravitational signature stabilized. Impossible. Confirmed. Harith ships began defensive repositioning. But it was too late. The stabilized wave disrupted their formation synchronization. Minor disruption. But enough. Sorath defense fleets seized the opening. Not overwhelming force. Precise strikes. Targeted. Harith forward ships lost coordination. 3 ships retreated. Then 5. Then 12. Within minutes, the probing fleet pulled back beyond Sorath borders. Retreat. The council chamber screens confirmed it. The Harith had withdrawn. Without full engagement. Without testing further. They had felt it. And they did not understand it. Aftermath. The convergence chamber powered down. Energy hum faded. Cashin remained standing. Uninjured. Unshaken. Yora stepped closer. Her field now calm. Perfectly contained. High Archivist Turan spoke slowly. The recognition is confirmed. Elder Varan bowed his head slightly toward Cashin. You have altered 9 generations of assumption. Cashin answered simply. I stayed. Yora almost smiled. Yes, she said. You did. The new protocol. Back in the Archive Council chamber, emergency session resumed. High Archivist Turan declared. Effective immediately, Sorath Air protocols are amended. Recognition quality is formally acknowledged. Council members recorded it. History shifted. Ambassador Thale looked at Cashin with something close to disbelief. You have redefined interspecies diplomacy, he said quietly. Cashin shook his head slightly. No. He looked at Yora. We clarified incomplete documentation. Simple. Precise. Human. The private conversation. Later, alone in a quiet observation balcony, Yora stood beside Cashin. Below them, Sorath city lights glowed. Most species fear what they do not understand, she said. Yes. You did not fear. I had defined parameters. She studied him. You understand what this means for your life? Yes. You will not return to invisible margin work. He considered that. The margin is where the real work happens. She looked at him carefully. And now? He met her gaze. Now the margin moved. She felt it again. The clarity. Mutual. Stable. You changed my world, she said softly. He shook his head. No. He looked at the stars. We changed its equation. The larger threat. Deep beyond Sorath territory, the Harith fleet regathered. Their leader spoke quietly. Human involvement confirmed. A pause. Then this is no longer a Soreth issue. Their ships turned. Not away from conflict, but toward planning something larger. Because stabilization meant alliance. And alliance meant power. And power meant threat. Ending, HFY. Back on Soreth, Archive Council seals were updated. New protocols drafted. New era beginning. Princess Yora stood beside the human who had once simply calculated capacity. 4 seats. 5 people. Wait. That same human had now stabilized an ancient power. Not through strength. Not through dominance. But through presence. Through staying. Through clarity. The oldest record had said, when the one who fits arrives, gravity no longer pulls alone. Tonight, Soreth gravity did not pull alone. And somewhere in deep space, an entire enemy empire had just learned a dangerous truth. Humanity does not overpower. Humanity endures. And when humanity stays, the universe shifts.